You know, I've just been in an angry mood today, so let's fuel the fire a little bit.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna list off some matches, okay?
Okay.
And I'll tell you when I'm done listing them off, but I want you to think about what all these matches might have in common.
Okay.
Okay? Ready? Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega, Impact World Championship.
Okay.
Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta.
Okay.
Adam Cole versus Hangman in a Texas death match. Eddie Kingston versus Konosuke Takeshita. Jungle Boy versus Rey Fenix. Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki.
Okay.
CM Punk versus Daniel Garcia. And Cody Rhodes versus Ethan Page for the TNT Championship. Now, that's all the matches.
My first thing was going to be Collision. But now you said Cody Rhodes and Ethan Page. Did they end in roll-ups?
No. Okay. I'm not that passionate about the roll-ups.
Okay.
So
I don't know the common thread then.
First and foremost, maybe barring the Ethan Page match, but just because Cody's in it. First and foremost, these all seem like pretty fucking killer matches, right?
Right.
But the main point I really want to drive in here is that all these matches happened on AEW Rampage weekly programming.
On Rampage?
Yes.
Okay.
What happened? What happened?
I'll tell you what happened. They made Collision. And they made Collision their other banger show. And Rampage is now on the back burner. They should not have 3 shows. They should not have 3 shows.
I just feel as if Rampage, to me, is okay, when it started in 2021, it was like that was the continuation of like Dynamite beef.
And also think of how it started.
The first episode was the Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega Impact World title.
The first one?
Christian beat Kenny Omega. I would say clean, but like he cheated. But he was the babyface. He beat him for the Impact World Championship.
Okay.
On their first show. And normally, too, I would also be against someone else's championship changing hands on a different show. But it was a banger fucking match, and then the week after we got CM Punk. So, yeah, obviously, like, it started with a bang, and then, you know, a lot of things could have played into this. But my point being, I feel like Rampage, as it kind of went on, turned more... I feel like it evolved into a dream match show. Yeah. And some might still argue now that it's a dream match show. Like, this week, we had that fatal 4-way with a bunch of high flyers. You know, some might think that as a dream show. But also, like, for the most part, they're just, like, nothing matches. And like, it's like Ring of Honor. It's Ring of Honor's, like, overflow.
Yeah.
You know? They got Bobby Cruz doing the announcing. They've got fucking, like, you know, they've got, what was it? Some kind of contention for the Ring of Honor World title, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was on Collision. I'm sorry.
That was on Collision. But, you know, I get what you're saying. And the other thing with Rampage is, like...
Cody Rhodes was on AEW Rampage.
Yeah.
Who main evented Rampage this week? It was Top Flight. No disrespect to Top Flight. I love Top Flight. But it was Top Flight and Shane Taylor Promotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, again, no disrespect to them, but they're not, like, main event.
Right.
level people. Like, we had fucking Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, like, for the TNT title. And, like, again, main event players just aren't on Rampage anymore. And so...
Yeah, it's because they put them all on Collision.
I almost feel like that's what just, like, strips it of its like not credibility, but like I feel you have to have big names on your show as like an attraction.
Yeah,
you know?
and I'm wondering if it's like, I wonder if since they brought Collision, right? I'm wondering if after CM Punk left, maybe Collision wasn't doing that well. So then they brought all their big names and everything to Collision, and Collision is doing well now. So they have 3 shows, and that's a problem.
I would say Collision is doing all right. Like,
yeah,
you know, I mean,
overall, like it's AEW. They're
in the grand scheme of things, they're doing better than Rampage. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're doing better than Rampage, but it's like they have 3 shows, and where it's so weird because their roster feels inflated but also spread thin at the same time. You know?
Where is everybody, you know?
Yeah. And the thing with Rampage too is like sometimes you'll have the continuous stories, but something small will happen on Rampage and it'll just be like an interview, and then they reference it on Collision or Dynamite. Like,
and then they're like, yeah, again, it's like we've revisited this before. We're banking on the belief that everyone knows who everyone is, but we're also banking on the belief that the audience will perceive these little, like, events that happen as, like, bigger than they actually are.
Right.
Like, yeah, I've been following fucking the Premier Athletes, and you know, they have been a little more, like, prevalent on Rampage and Collision. But, like, there'll be some small thing, and then a match will be booked. And, like, obviously you can tell the reasoning of the match being booked is because of that one little, like, 30, 45 second segment that happened, like, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, expected of us to remember it. And, like, I know ready, here come y'all in the fucking comments, like, oh, don't, like, you need to be spoon-fed all your wrestling. It's like, well, yeah, like, to a degree. Because also, if you want audience retention, that's, like, sorry, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Like, you have, like, wrestling, again, is all about repetition and just saying things over and over again until they stick with people. I.e., like, you started watching NXT basically when we started watching this podcast. Within 2 weeks, you, like, knew everything because... Right. That's just how wrestling is. They feed it to you and continuously, like, say the same shit over and over again. Do you know how many times I fucking heard that Baron Corbin is, like, a Golden Gloves boxing champion? It's because they mention it whenever he's in the ring.
Right.
And, like, and that's not even an important detail about Corbin. You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't even know that, but I do.
I mean, that's also, like, on the commentary as well, right? I feel like a lot of times with AEW commentary, it's them, like, yeah, they talk about the matches, they talk about the wrestling, and then it's just them, like, cracking jokes at each other, but they're not, like... They're not saying things to get cemented in your head like WWE does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Vic Joseph... will go off, like on NXT. Vic Joseph will go off with all these stats and facts and all that stuff, and then Booker T will say some fucking, like, you know, some Booker T mannerism, but you remember it. Right. Because they say it, like, 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, and you get stuck with it.
There are ways to get your audience to remember things like this, and it's just like, I don't know, man.
And even names.
Names. Very surface.
Like NXT. Yeah. If you showed me a bunch of NXT superstars right now, I could probably name them all. If not, I could name most of them probably. There's people on Rampage and even Collision sometimes where I watch and I don't know people's names still. I don't know the Premier athletes' names. I don't know them. Shane Taylor Promotions, I can't name them. I just know the tag team. Like, I've been watching AEW, again, weekly for a long time, and I cannot name a lot of people.
A lot of the times, like, I'm a day oneer, and I know these names, and so I think a lot of the times too they're banking on you being a day oneer or watching CMLL or watching New Japan or what have you. I think at very surface level, just comparing the matches they were having then versus the matches that we saw, say, this week.
Yeah.
It just really feels like they are reaching deep into the bag and just kind of throwing together like an indie match card, which...
And then we're also not saying we should have banger matches every single week. Like,
no. And to a degree, like sometimes there are banger matches.
Right.
Like, I'm not...
Yeah.
The worst part about all this is that, like, it's unfortunate that, like, it's so bad because we're probably coming off as AEW haters again. Right. But, like, it's just like I lived through Rampage's heyday and respectfully AEW's heyday, like, and they're working. I think they're gonna get back to a point where it's gonna be like worth watching again and really like rewarding to watch. And it kind of like already is kind of, but there are still some aspects about it, and I feel like to a degree, I feel like it's growing pains,
Yeah.
We were saying like how even though their product hasn't been the best, like AEW's still like on the up and up.
Yeah.
They're growing, they're like doing all those things. But I think with all these new additions, i.e. Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor, i.e. starting another show, like I think with those come like growing pains, and now you have to figure out how to balance all these and how to like still please your audience and how to manage a wrestling company and how to manage a football company and how to manage a soccer company.
Yeah.
And Tony Khan, you should really hire a booker.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't doubt, like, I know Tony Khan is for the fans because he's booked matches that have made people go crazy. But, it's just very different now.
Yeah.
It's the best way I'd put it. It's like, yeah, man.
I know. I get what you're saying. I think we're gonna start talking in circles here.
Very passionate about this topic.
I think we're gonna start talking in circles here. But overall, like, Rampage is not as strong as it used to be, and it's true because like, it's my least favorite show to watch every week. And I'm like, well, I guess I better throw on Rampage. Like, that's literally how I feel about it.
It's an hour of like...
It's an hour of just tossing it on my other... Yeah, I'm tossing it on my other monitor. I'm like, okay, whatever. And if something notable happens, I'll mark it down. But if not, then I'm just like, that was Rampage. Like, that's how
What
I feel
happened this
week
week on Rampage?
I wrote one thing down, and it was a comedic bit, and that's it. I don't think I can name anything else, but it's when Orange Cassidy was at commentary and Undisputed Kingdom was in the ring, and Orange Cassidy gets up and goes, hey, let's go stare him down. Stare downs are rad. And then he stood at the end of the ramp and they had a stare down, which led to the next night. But
right.
I'm like, dude, I don't know. It's not exciting.
Yeah.
Like Collision I genuinely enjoy, and I get excited to watch Collision every week. This week,
they also give you enough time to like enjoy it. Like, I feel like an hour is so hard to work with when it's wrestling.
Yeah.
It used to be like when they started, they like understood 2 to 3 matches a show. Now they're like somehow cramming 5 matches in a single episode of Rampage.
Yeah, it's insane.
Which I just like, yeah, you can have quick matches, but in succession, I don't know about that. Like,
yeah.
Like, I think a good, like, balance where...
The past 3 WWE PLEs have been 5 matches. and that's 3 hours.
And they've been 3 hours,
yeah. So, I don't know.